Let's add a little bit more detail to the idea of displacements. So here is a nice map from UNDP and ODI again on the 10 largest displacement events of 2016, which were climate related. In India, there was massive Bihar floods in a state up here in the northeast, sorry, and it displaced more than 1.5 million people. And China had multiple natural climate hazards. Yangtze River floods, almost 2 million. Typhoon Haima, Typhoon Megi, Typhoon Meranti. Philippines got hammered by Nocten and Haima. And you can see the massive numbers here. Indonesia, rainy season floods and landslides. Of course, here, many times landslides are related to other human actions like deforestation, conversion to agriculture, urbanization, etc. US got hit by Hurricane Matthew, and Cuba got hit by Hurricane Matthew as well. Okay, so every year we have to track these and also see if their number is increasing and if the number of people being affected is increasing. And typically, as you can expect, the loss in infrastructure and so on is larger in rich countries, and loss of life is larger in developing countries. But countries like India are making tremendous progress in predicting these things with sufficient lead and setting in place a decision system which has continuously reduced mortality in droughts and cyclones over the years. The other details, of course, a place like Philippines gets hit. Its supply in global products like coconut-based products, for example, affects directly and indirectly the economies of basically many countries which rely on imports from the Philippines. There are other details about whether a particular typhoon got stronger than normal because of global warming. In that case, who is responsible for it, and how would you assign responsibility, and how would you compensate for this additional damage? This is called loss and damage, and so on. So you can see that the issues get very complicated very quickly. This is Notre Dame University's index called Global Adaptation Initiative, ND-GAIN. So it shows that most cross-border migrants stay within their region with some exceptions. So when you are surrounded by poorer and more vulnerable countries, for example, India has massive economic ambitions, but it's got neighbors like Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh who are highly vulnerable to climate issues like reductions in rainfall, increases in heat waves, sea level rise, floods and landslides, etc. That becomes a economic and maybe national security issue, and so on and so forth. So this ND-GAIN country index is high for some countries like Central America here, and you can see that the migration all the way from Philippines is affecting the US. Of course, these countries have created massive migration problem at the border, and the president that's hopefully leaving soon has made a big issue out of that. Right? So climate issues, climate as a stressor of other problems then becomes a political issue, and people react based on their intrinsic and extrinsic values and so on. Peru exports its people to Spain and Italy and so on when there are climate issues here, and there are migrations from Bangladesh and Nepal into India, of course, and into the Middle East, and same for Pakistan, and also to parts of Central Asia and Western Asia. Okay, so the story obviously is now global in the sense that even though global warming creates winners and losers, the geopolitical instabilities and, let's say, rise in piracy or terrorism and so on that are driven partly by climate issues like persistent droughts in Syria, for example, over here, and political issues in Zimbabwe, which are then amplified by climate issues, can quickly become global problems. So even though global warming creates winners and losers, it may continue to do that. Very quickly, it already is, and it will become more so as a global problem. Of course, displacements offer opportunities and challenges to human mobility. There are new economic activities, money to be made, poverty can be reduced when, let's say, a Bangladeshi moves to a Middle East or to some other richer country. Because wages go up, they manage to save the money and send home some money. But they also disrupt social networks, for sure. Immigrants try to build social networks elsewhere, but they have their own problems over short time and long time. Cultural differences and suspicions begin to add to political issues, as well as the migrant problem in the US shows. Labor exploitation, when you have immigrants coming in and they have no choice but to be taking up jobs that are available, makes plenty of room for exploitation. Access to critical services like education, healthcare. There's big debates about whether migrant children should be given education, should be allowed to stay, and so on, right? Urbanization is a massive problem. You can see here the rise in populations in urban areas from 2000 to 2015 and projected into 2030 for Asia, for Africa, Latin America, Europe, and North America. Obviously, Europe and North America, as well as parts of Latin America, are already highly urbanized, whereas Africa and Asia still have plenty of room. So the projected increase of urban population as well as people living within 50 miles of coastal regions is also going to be high in the coming years and decades. So urban areas are exposed to climate change impacts. Half of the world's population now lives in cities. 13% of urban population lives less than 10 meters above sea level. So parts of Florida, Miami, Manhattan, Mumbai, Chennai, many big cities are very close to sea level, Dhaka, and so on. Human mobility and climate directly affect sustainable development of cities. So better urban planning is key to reducing climate risks, and cities must invest in reducing vulnerabilities to those who move. Cities are hubs of economic activity. They invite lots of laborers, and for example, during the lockdowns because of the COVID-19 in India, many migrant laborers got stuck in cities without income, without sufficient space to do social distancing, without access to clean water and food. And this only amplified the situation in many cities. Mumbai became a hotspot for COVID because of many of these combinations of things, right? And then when the lockdowns were relaxed, there was massive migration back to the native places, which created another problem of explosion in those places. So urbanization obviously is a critical part of human growth and development, but it comes with many issues that need proper urban planning, especially in the context of climate change as a multiple stressor and its demand on food, energy, and water. Okay.